We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Hello, everybody. DJ Hilson yet again with a great interview today. A good friend and colleague, and some would say a partner in crime, even though we're not committing any crime. And ultimately, today, we're going to focus in on county government in our municipalities at work. And I have the pleasure of having as my guest today, Sheriff Michael Poulin.
Morning.
Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is for you, my friend.
The day runs continuous.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, listen, it's always a pleasure to sit down and have these conversations with you. And quite honestly, today for me is really showcasing what people may not understand what the sheriff department does. Because everybody sees the sheriff cars on the road. They'll see the brown shirts, right? They'll see that function, but there's so much else involved in the sheriff's department. So let's talk, first of all, introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Michael Poulin. I am your Muskegon County Sheriff. I'm currently in my third term as sheriff right now. My 38th year of law enforcement here in Muskegon County. I tell you, the job as sheriff, as I will hear from sheriffs throughout the state, is probably the greatest job in the world a person can have, just because you get to work with the community. And I truly adore the individuals I get to work with. I know the hard work that they have every day, but, I mean, as far as the work goes, but I'm married to my wife, Susan. We have two boys who are up and out of the house now, grown adults, and just enjoying our lives and the work that we're doing here in the community.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk a little nuts and bolts here first. Describe, if you would, Sheriff, the number of employees under the umbrella of the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, in total with the Sheriff's Office, we have just under 120 uniform staff. There's two different divisions in there. And then about 12 civilian staff that were clerical workers and such as that. So, around 130 some altogether. And
obviously, as sheriff, you are the top administrator, so you get the joy, if you will, the luxury of administering or overseeing that staff. And maybe you could describe for the individuals what that is like.
Well, as sheriff, I am part of the executive branch. We create policy and for the department. But my duties as sheriff, my responsibilities, if you will, by statute. One, I'm responsible for operating a jail in the county. We are responsible for providing court security through the Hall of Justice. Also doing subpoena services. The sheriff by statute is required to answer calls of service through the community for where that goes. And so that is our operations division from the Rural Patrol. Some refer to as that, which also encompasses our detective bureau. Sheriff's offices also receive state funding for our operations for Marine Patrol. We have the deepest natural port here in Muskegon County, and it's a very busy port with the different lakes, and so we offer those services also.
All right, let's talk a little bit about corrections. We'll start with corrections.
Yep.
Probably one of the biggest functions,
yes,
at least for you, I would assume, that you have.
We're just a little over $15 million budget is what we have, and a little more than half of that is spent on the corrections itself from there. We have it's a pretty new jail still, opened in 2015. We still have some projects going on there, but as a sheriff operating a jail, a lot of people don't know our jail is the 7th largest in the state. It has a capacity of 542 beds. Right now, we're about, with some of the mandates and changes that have gone on over the last couple of years, we're maintaining around 300 right now, right around there. We're responsible for everything from housing to feeding individuals. Since I've been in office, we've increased our programming for the inmates by almost 25%, offering different programming, outside individuals coming in, educational purposes, things like that. Ministry, only jail I know of that has an actual chapel inside the facility. And we're just wrapping up right now a $1.8 million mezzanine project where we're putting security screening on the upper mezzanines so people can't get injured.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. For folks that maybe have never seen the inside of our jail and how it was constructed originally, there was a safety concern, right?
Yes.
Because again, maybe you can describe for folks how we'll stick with the pod system, where the pods are and what they look like, and why this mezzanine project was so very important.
Well, in each housing unit, there's a series of cells which will be on the first floor. Then there's an upper tier, which we call the mezzanine, which is the second floor from there. And when the jail was initially constructed, there was nothing more than a handrail that was put there. We've had staff, incidents happen where inmates have attempted to push staff off, throw staff off as they assault them. We've had individuals, try to commit suicide, either by jumping or hanging themselves from there. So when I got in, I had been working on this since 2017, actually, to try to get this put back into the program, I guess. Jails at that time that were being built did have these in them. I don't know what the decision was then, why it wasn't part of the project. But anyways, with some work with the County Board of Commissioners, we were able to move forward with this using the American Rescue Plan dollars. And we're more than halfway through on the project right now. It should be done in August, and we'll be opening back up. But it provides a security screening on that upper level. It's pretty tight, so even if an individual tried to climb it, I don't know that they could hold on very long, but the fact is they can't get around the other side at all,
Well, again, an important security feature, not only for the folks that are there, but your
for
staff.
Everybody. For everybody. Yeah, everybody.
Other services that people may not understand or appreciate that are offered through the Corrections Division. You mentioned educational opportunities. Specifically, what are those? How does that, or I guess, what are inmates given the opportunity to pursue?
Well, as you're well aware, we have our exit program, a very successful program where we're able to actually, those individuals that qualify for that can learn pretty much a core function. There's a big difference between a correctional facility as a jail and a correctional facility as a Michigan Department of Corrections. The individual that is housed in the Muskegon County Jail is typically sentenced no longer than a year on their sentence. Anything further than that, then they'd go to the Michigan Department of Corrections. So the staff understands, and the programming's geared towards the fact that these are returning citizens. These are people that are coming back to our community. So we want to do the things that we can. We actually have an obligation to give them the tools that they need to succeed when they go back home. So even if it's through chaplain services, the exit program where they're starting to learn a trade, maybe we've had individuals that are able to obtain their GEDs while they're incarcerated in the facility. But really, working with exterior programs, companies throughout the public that allow us to help these individuals succeed when they return home.
And ultimately, too, if I'm not mistaken, Sheriff, there are medical facilities. And maybe you could describe for the folks why a service like that, or at least the ability to have that service inside the facilities, is so critically important. Right.
Well, we privately contract our medical services with a company called Vital Core. And, there's medical stations set up. There's one on each floor if an individual needs to be seen there. But, once again, I fall back on not only as a returning citizen our responsibility to help these people prepare, but we're responsible for their health while they're there also. And trust me, this is a population that we're typically dealing with that, this may be the first time that they're seeing a doctor or a healthcare provider from that point. Some people may not understand either is that trying to get this switched as an individual becomes incarcerated in a jail when they come there. Well, the law reads they automatically lose their Medicare, or Medicaid, sorry. And then the county is now responsible for those bills as we go forward. So, if it's a pregnancy or, someone's going through chemotherapy or something like that, the county has to foot that bill. That's something that we have to pay for until they get out of the facility. So, but we have a full-time medical staff that's there 24 hours a day. We also have offices that are secured for community mental health. They've been great partners for us also. A lot of people always ask, hey, what's the biggest, not issue or thing you're dealing with as sheriff right now? And really it is community mental health, bar none. Because we want to make sure the individuals that are coming to the facility should be in the facility for one. And secondly, when I talk about community mental health, I'm also talking about staff for the type of work that they're dealing with and making sure that they're getting the appropriate help that they need.
Yeah, you touched on the area that I wanted to ask you at least a question on, because I know, having worked with you on a few of these issues, that mental health and in the facility has been an important part of what you've done as part of your role as sheriff in trying to develop programs and work with other outside partners, making people recognize and appreciate and understand that the jail is not a mental health facility. You expound on that a little bit?
Well, there's the problem is we'll run into individuals that have a mental health issue that we're going to be dealing with. Working with Health West, probably over the last, I'm going to say 4 years, the county-wide, now this is every law enforcement agency in Muskegon County, we have developed these crisis intervention teams. All right, every officer has received the CIT training, and that will continue. Some agencies have mental health workers embedded in their department to go out with those officers to help us identify those individuals that are in need of help. It's been working out very well, but if I have nowhere a bed available, all right, for a facility for an individual who needs help, jail's not the place for them to go, because really they're coming to jail nothing more than a mental health reason that they have, because there's nowhere else to put this person. And it's our facility is no facility actually of the 83 sheriffs in the state of Michigan of housing an individual who has mental health needs in a jail, because we're not equipped to handle those people. Some facilities are better. When I say that, I can tell you that we're not equipped, but we brought an individual from Muskegon County here because we're better equipped than Muskegon County was, and for getting both medical and the mental health needs that they have. But having Health West embedded into the department is just those mental health staff that are working. It's invaluable to have them there daily.
Well, I do know, obviously, the facility, as you said, is relatively new. I'll say state-of-the-art, for lack of a better way to describe it, with video and whatnot. How has let me ask you this, from the corrections side, how has the implementation of body cams on the corrections side really helped and assisted in your job?
This win-win forever, right? I mean, I remember being a young deputy and having my own camera in my cruiser before we even had them, and there was that resistance even from the road. And I think the corrections officers, because it took so long for them to get the body cameras and everything, they understood the benefit before they even got them. It was a goal of mine as sheriff to have all staff wearing them. So it's a great tool for staff to use, and it's helped us where because it records and I don't want to say keeps in check, right? I mean, we should know what's going on. But we've had those individuals who have made complaints against our staff, right? I mean, like they've been assaulted or this or that happened. And we can go back and check that and find, you typically find it to not be true, right? But we have used them for, a punitive, though. I mean, where discipline was warranted. And it helped us as an agency to get ahead of a situation. So they're just a fabulous tool. It's actually a game changer.
Well, yeah, and again, like you said, it's a protection more than anything else, right? Yep. It's not Big Brother watching. It's a protection.
Yeah, they're not on either side of the operations or the correction side. This isn't something that's reviewed, right? A situation happens and then you go back, or if it's being sent like to your office for evidence as part of a crime. So yeah.
Well, let's transition from corrections, and sort of I'll say a subset of that is court services. Again, a function that the sheriff's office provides. And can you describe a little bit of what that is for folks that maybe they have never been to the courthouse, but folks go in and they sometimes will see brown shirts sitting in the courtroom?
Yeah, we, sometimes it's hard to distinguish because all of the staff wear the same uniform, right? We are one team. But the officers that work through court services, they are part of the operations side. That would be your officers you see on the road by their certification that they have in their training. Each officer, we rotate them around throughout the day or week, depending on what the caseloads are or the trials that are set. But those staff, they're the same people. They have a shift bid, right, each year, and individuals get assigned to this duty. But they are the ones that will show up, make sure the courtroom's ready for the day. They'll swear people in. They can do that. But really, their primary function is the security of the court. And when I say that, it's the security of that judge that's there. That's that responsibility. And that court security, especially through circuit court, is a mandate by law that we are to provide. So these individuals are quite busy because they will be moving defendants back and forth from the courtroom while still protecting a jury, maintaining that, and the integrity of the process as that goes on. It's a very important role that we have at the Sheriff's Office inside the Hall of Justice.
So ultimately, I mean, everybody should recognize that the sheriff's deputy in the courtroom is there certainly to maintain some order if it gets out of order, but also, as the functions you described, maintaining peace and security.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in potential volatile situations.
Yeah, I mean, these, and you've seen it yourself, right? Some of these cases, the emotions from the families, the victims. I mean, we've seen that, and I hate to almost say it's expected, right? I mean, we're all human, and but they're there. They're professionals. They receive proper training, and how to minimize those situations.
Before we get to operations, you mentioned training, and so I'd like you to at least let people know what the expectations are of the Sheriff's Department, but more importantly, the expectations of the profession itself for continuing education.
Yeah, there's I've kind of coined it and said it before because I don't know, honestly, of another profession that requires as much re-education as law enforcement does. And I say that because we're continually reviewing and changing policies. Legislators are changing laws all the time, and sometimes that can be a little frustrating with all the best intentions. It just doesn't go the way that they wanted. But the officers are always learning. We have some of those staples that we have to learn statewide as far as the certification goes. Our precision driving, firearms, and a lot of the big ones. A big one right now, which is so important, is de-escalation training. Being able to de-escalate a situation and mandating that these officers are trained in these situations and with that duty to intervene, right? If I see this other officer maybe not doing the right thing, I have a responsibility to intervene in a situation. And these really, have stepped up how professional our law enforcement community is. The hours of training are required through the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. There's also a training requirement we have for corrections through the Training Coordinating Council for there also.
So just so that, and I'd like you just to kind of clarify something, MCOLS, as you indicated, yes. The licensing agency, why is that important and what function does it play for the deputies that work for you? Well,
it's changed names from when I started, but MCOLS, they really, that's where we get our licensing, if you will, from there and our maintenance of records and the things that we do. But, over the last few years, one of the most important things that they do now that I feel is an officer moving from one department to another. We're able to track that officer now and find out why did they leave that department and what's going on, So it gives us a better insight to the individual that was working. But the Commission on Law Enforcement Standards is just that. They set the standards to become a police officer, what those requirements will be, and what you're going to need to do throughout your career to maintain that standard. And it's very important. Once again, part of that continuing education.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in sort of the oversight governing board, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. When things go south.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about operations.
Yep.
Obviously, you've got the patrol unit, and part of that is the detective bureau. Give a description as to what role they play.
So here in Muskegon County, the Sheriff's Office, we will patrol, our officers will be in those unincorporated areas. So there's 16 townships in Muskegon County. And so my office is responsible for offering law enforcement services to 14 of those townships. Within there, we have some school resource officers. We have some contractual officers that work some of the townships. From there, they work 12-hour shifts. We have 2 shifts a day. And supporting those areas. But, as sheriff, my responsibility is still to this county as a whole. So there will be times you will see Sheriff's Department cars patrolling or out and about in these other municipalities. With the Michigan State Police, there are 11 separate law enforcement agencies that work in Muskegon County. We all do the same function. We just wear a different uniform like we play for a different team, but we all do the same thing. Outside of those officers these are, they're taking those calls of service when the individual calls the 911, I need an officer right now, and that's the function they're providing. And then our Detective Bureau, the investigations unit, primary on evidence collection. And these are, our command office will go through the reports for the end of the day, and if there's something that needs to be brought to the attention of the detective sergeant, the supervisor on that unit, something maybe we need a little more, I'll say, seniority, experience, and, technique, because the detectives are also, they're a little more trained up, if you will, in the investigations as far as they handle that.
Now, as part of operations, the county or the sheriff's department is also a member of the emergency response team. Talk a little bit about that, please.
So this is the emergency response team is a multi-jurisdictional SWAT team, for better words. I think people understand that. They respond to anything from, barricaded gunmen, a hostage situation. This team's been around since 2013, I believe it is. No, 2015, sorry. And they have handled exactly those types of calls, the types of calls that they were put together for. It was created when the cops board, the chiefs of police, all the chiefs got together back then, and we had an increase in barricaded gunman complaints and things like that. And so really, this is a technical group of individuals that will come out and support all law enforcement agencies here in Muskegon County on those situations that I don't want to say that law enforcement can't handle, right? But I now have a highly trained individual with the proper equipment, doing the proper procedures, on how they're addressing a situation. This is one of the, we had talked about this briefly before we started here, but this is one of the things that's not a mandated function, okay? Many of the functions that the sheriff's office has are mandated by statute. But there's other things that we're afforded the ability to do because we're doing the right thing is the way I look at it, things that we should be doing.
Talk a little bit about your experience. You mentioned the other, obviously there's multiple police jurisdictions or agencies within the county. And talk a little bit about the collaboration and cooperation that you've experienced along with the mutual aid agreement.
Well, great question, and it's great for people to understand what's going on. I mean, you participate in our monthly COPS board meetings as we go from there, and when we talk about collaboration and we hear from, the things that we're doing here in Muskegon County, especially like things with your office, Elder Abuse Task Force, things like that. And then I hear from other chiefs, other sheriffs, and you get this, hey, did you hear what they're doing in Muskegon, right? And we talk about the collaboration that happens between all those chiefs and the reasons that we need to work together. And, like I said, being the sheriff of Muskegon County, just because some of the larger cities are not in my patrol district, if you will, what they're doing, they're still within our enforcement area. And I'll do everything I can to help them out. We've had it before. We had an increase in shootings and stuff that were happening. And so, I went to the county board and asked for additional dollars for overtime so we could put our officers in these communities to help them. And we did, and it worked. So it's very important that we're able to work together. You use the term mutual aid, and that's just what it is. We sign an agreement, and we all work together to make sure that every agency is getting the things that they need to help support their communities.
The other thing I want you to talk about along those lines, given some of the national things we've seen as far as active shooters are concerned, the level of preparedness and what is behind that in Muskegon County and what you've experienced and overseen.
Yeah, so it was, when Chief Gale with the Norton Shores Police Department was working, he and I spent a lot of time working on a safe school initiative is what it was called back then. And the idea was when a school district's putting together their series of lockdown drills through the year that they need to do by statute, that we would bring in every officer that we can that would be available from other jurisdictions because when something does happen at a school, the cavalry's coming, everybody's responding. And we really want those officers from a separate jurisdiction that may not have an opportunity, if something's going out in Ravenna schools, right? I mean, we're actually going to get Kent County showing up, all right? We want those officers to already have eyes on that facility, already had walked through it so they know what to expect. And, every district now is working, and I talk about school district, working now to get a resource officer within their school, which I think is the number one thing a district could do as far as security goes, having a uniformed officer there. But they're able to help with curriculum. They do more than just be a patrolman. They're creating relationships and bonds with these kids that last a lifetime.
Yeah, it's from sort of an outsider looking in, it's spectacular. And like you, I brag about Muskegon County and its law enforcement personnel all the time, because I do think it's very unique and probably the best in the state. And I just don't say that to say that. One other question I don't want to forget, even though today is not the day to really be thinking about it, but in the summertime, you do have a Marine division. You mentioned, I think, in one of your answers.
Yeah.
And that plays we are a county that borders the water. I have several waterways. So talk a little bit about how important that service is.
I've been pretty vocal over the last year and a half now, and I just, I don't want to use a platform here, but a lot of people aren't aware that we no longer have the U.S. Coast Guard in Muskegon. We're trying to pick up that slack because I find it to be a public safety issue. But, and once again, working with the County Board of Commissioners, we're able to get a few extra dollars to help us cover those hours that they're not there. But, when we talk about the waterways here in Muskegon County, we are the deepest natural port that's here. We have also White Lake that we're responsible to. We contract services for Mona Lake, that lake also. And then if you think of the miles of rivers and inland lakes and everything else, because all that's part of that, and with boater safety also. But we have a car ferry out of here. We do, I think it was 23 ports of call, each year coming through with, it's a very busy port. And then we also have fishing tournament every day throughout the summer. So there's a lot of activity, new marinas coming in. And, this is our Marine unit itself is one full-time staff member who hires seasonal. They're part-time officers to do the Marine Patrol functions, usually about 10 throughout the summer months. And really, these positions have turned out to be a great stepping stone for individuals. Some of our administrative command staff were individuals that started at the Marine Patrol level. He has a college internship or something like that. But, as an avid boater, I enjoy seeing those additional resources out there on the water. And they've been received very well, really out there just to make sure everybody's staying safe.
So before I get to my last point, I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about if folks are interested, in whether it be the seasonal stuff or if there are openings in the Sheriff's Department, best avenue. Yeah,
well, anytime you check the county's HR website, and you can get that link from the Sheriff's Office website also, they'll list what positions are open. And I actually think they list the positions anyways because you can fill out what's called an interest card. And then when a position does come open, you'll be notified, so you can apply for it at that time. We're in a very fortunate time right now, and this next year will be our third year starting with it, where the state, the Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, which we talked about earlier, is now funding individuals to go through the academy, right? So you'll basically get hired by a department, and then we'll pay you a wage while you go there. This has really helped with numbers, increased numbers for hiring individuals. If you're thinking about corrections, we will send you to the Corrections Academy. We pay for that also. As a young student, in high school, trying to find that career path and stuff, the tech center has programs there that can lead you right in, to a law enforcement career, depending what you want to do. My goal when I was a young guy, I always wanted to be at the sheriff's office because I looked at all the stuff they offered, all the things that they have. A great majority of my career was actually in our traffic unit. One of the things we didn't even talk about here, we're responsible for all the serious car crashes that happen. And I learned a lot from that, and it really opened up some doors for me and opportunities, and it was a great part of my career. So there's, you can find that niche and the thing you want to do as a young person. I have you say that, and I have a young lady coming to see me next week, and she just, to talk about it and really what's it all about. And I'd be more than happy to sit down with anybody and give them the straight answers about this job because it's one of the best ones you can have.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I know you won't say this, so I'm going to say it for you. I want, certainly since you've been elected, you've been very much into the community locally, but also on a statewide level. You've had the opportunity to serve on a few statewide boards at the behest of the governor.
Yep.
So I want you to talk about that, but it goes without saying that you now represent Muskegon County at the highest level of the Sheriff's Association as president. And
Correct.
It's an honor to know that you are the Sheriff's Association president. And, thank you for taking that leadership role, because it's more than just a title.
Yeah. Well, you're right about that.
As you know.
I've been attending the different district meetings that the sheriffs have. I was a chair of District 3, which is kind of a broad stroke from Muskegon County to Bay County area, 17 county area. I just a week and a half ago, I was out in Washington, D.C. We got a lot of meetings up on the Hill with our different congressmen and things like that, and at the National Sheriff's Conference. But it's quite an honor. It really is. It's going to be a busy year, that I do know. My staff's already prepared because, I do have some traveling and different things to do. And I'm really excited for the challenges that come with that. I'm just starting my third term on the Governor's Traffic Safety Advisory Commission. Once again, as a young deputy, seeing what its mission was and the things that were happening with that, I was, how am I going to get there type thing. And I'm quite honored to have received that appointment from the governor as far as that goes. But and I'm also on the state's motorcycle safety committee. But as president, I look forward to a great year, and I do my best to make everybody proud, all 83 sheriffs and our executive director.
Well, listen, Mike, that stuff doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of the leader who you are, and it's just an honor to share space with you in this great county that we get to call home.
Right.
Well, thank you for today, for helping sort of expand people's knowledge as to the importance of the Sheriff's Department beyond just seeing the car on the road. Right. It goes well beyond that. So thank you for your service, obviously, your years of dedication to this community, and foremost for being a great friend.
Okay, thank you, DJ. I appreciate that.
And that's all we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. Yet again, another great interview for Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. Continue to follow us as we explore the various careers and jobs that really make both county and municipal government work. As always, your host, DJ Hilson, and this doesn't happen without the ingenuity and inventiveness of Mike Vogus.